Good morning, beautiful people. We are live.
The sun is rising, the sky is blue. Good morning, grand risings. Let's see what's new. It's the time of day for Sonia and crew. Good morning, grand risings. It's time to wake up with Sonia Poulton. Sonia Poulton, Sonia Poulton, Sonia Poulton, Poulton.
Good morning, grand risings. Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton and Getz. I'm already feeling giggly and I don't know why. Excuse me. It's just gone 9:01 a.m. GMT. I hope you are all fabulously well. Oh, isn't it so great to have those heavy energies behind us? Such heavy energies we were dealing with last week. Wonderful to have you here with me. I can see our two wonderful mods in the building. Crazy Bunny and, of course, Soul Sound. Grand risings to you all. Wonderful, glorious, gorgeous people. It is Monday, the 16th of December, 2024, 1 week before Christmas. Yes, I love Christmas. Can't help myself. Don't blame me for it. Listen, just want to say hello and welcome to Catherine Sengupta. Said, first time ever here for the live starting time. Welcome, Catherine. You are in great company. Angie is just up, still sleepy eyes. Good morning, everybody. And there's Nikki in the comments, and Fazana, and Armand, and Kath, and Cara, and Shalini. Last week of work. Whoop! And Julie, and Teresa, and Crone, and Silly Says, and Marcuson, who, of course, is responsible for our opening jingle. Let's go, says Soul Sound. Let's go indeed. What is coming up on the show today? We have Dave Morris of Cops Opposing Police Surveillance, and here to talk us through the entire, as much as he humanly can, Spy Cop scandal. We'll also have Anna Redfern. Some of you will know her. She was the cinema owner who stood up to be counted during C-19. Plus, US and UK, lights in the sky. What is that all about? What is it all about? And we'll be looking at the curious links of alleged killer Luigi Mangione. And Disney has been forced to settle a wage theft lawsuit. Yeah, the thieves stealing from employees. And now they've had to face the consequences of their actions. Oh, yes. And Germany, possibly out of NATO, according to a political party. And we hear from Prince beyond the grave on chemtrails. And hands off. That's right. The bird flu zealots are back again, and they're after your raw milk. Oh, yes, they are. And at the end of the show, we'll be talking about the importance of realistic optimism. We've had so much darkness, haven't we? And we don't need it. All this, all the usual stuff. Viewer emails, live chat, the liveliest of live chat, frankly. We do news differently around here, and you know why? Because someone had to. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I see Paul Lambert is in the comments saying, hi, Sonia. Malcolm Roberts, the Senator for Queensland, stated the UK is trialling carbon taxes. Yes, Paul. 1st of January 2027, they've actually announced that the UK will actually levy on imports of carbon intensive goods. Now, I don't know. I haven't been able to find, in the short period of time since I saw your comment, I haven't been able to find the information that you're actually talking about, but they will be levying a carbon tax from the 1st of January 2027. Okay, this will be, we're told, a certain tax levy on carbon heavy goods being imported into the country. Will that be cows? I mean, they're just mad, these people, aren't they? But anyway, listen. Full moon behind us. What a relief. Like I say, heavy energies we've been dealing with. Mercury stopped retrograding yesterday as well, which means we can stop looking back and we can start looking forward. We are getting ready to go, just in time for festivities. Oh, yes, we are. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, then celebrate life anyway. We have to keep finding a way to lift the vibrations of this world. I am more convinced of that now than ever before. We've had too much darkness and negativity. We need light and we need hope. And I'm not talking about hope without actually any reality attached to it. No. And that's why we're going to end on the importance of optimistic realism or realistic optimism, whichever way you want to look at it. And let's bring this week in. Oh, yes, let's bring in the lights and not just in the skies, right? And can I just say right at the start, really important, where is it? Let's bring it on. Happy birthday, Mark. Happy birthday, Mark. Mark is a lovely, lovely human being. It was his birthday yesterday. He's been very kindly sorting out the various headaches and issues that we've had with the mugs. I do apologize for anybody who's bought mugs if you had any issues. Not too many, frankly, but Mark is still sorting them out nonetheless. He is an absolute star. He's a great person. He's a great support in helping our show to grow. Yes, he is. Thank you very much, Mark. And of course, your lovely partner, Susanna. Here's wishing you a fabulous, fabulous birthday week. And thank you for being here for us. We truly appreciate it. We truly, truly appreciate it. I appreciate any help and assistance from people. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I've been in Scotland this weekend. Bonnie, Scotland. Absolutely love it. Thank you to the entire Common Knowledge crew. You are phenomenal. The whole team. They took me out to a lovely dinner. For a lovely dinner on Friday night. We had the talk on Saturday. Then there was the after party. I met so many wonderful people who are in the comments. Yes. Zoe and Craig and Teresa and Kath and Peter. And I got so many beautiful gifts. Look at this. Sorry, but this, I think, is literally the best fountain pen I've ever seen in my entire life. How gorgeous is that? That's from lovely Teresa. Look at that. Fountain pen in it. That is so unique. I love it. And the thing is, there's something that Teresa couldn't possibly have known because I've never talked about it. But when I was younger, I was used to be able to do really, really good writing with fountain pens. And I haven't had a proper fountain pen for years. But this is going to be absolutely divine for me to write with. Teresa, thank you so much. You are an absolute star. And can I just say also thank you to your wonderful daughter, Summer, for making me a key ring. Sonia, look at that. Love it, love it, love it, love it. These people are incredible. I'm so fortunate to have so much love around me. And thank you, Professor Diane Rasmussen, from UK Column, who bought me this beautiful Scottish thistle. How lovely is that? She introduced me on Saturday. Absolute lovely introduction. And I'm very grateful for how much love I've been shown over this weekend. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to Esther, who put me up in her Airbnb. She's an absolute star and made me sweet potato pancakes and the best strong coffee I've tasted in a long time. And we had a wonderful response all round. It really was amazing. I'm so incredibly overwhelmed by, as I say, the love and support that I receive. And just a big shout out to lovely Eileen. Eileen came, and Eileen's grieving. She lost her mum, and she just buried her mum last week. And she came and she said, I'm glad I came along because life goes on. I think it incumbent to celebrate her life and honor it in some way by making a difference moving forward. How wonderful is that? How wonderful is that? Eileen, love you. Love you to bits. Yes, I do. And I love Scotland. And I was very, very honoured to be asked to do my year in review. And also, of course, look at this. Only cans. They've now got their own stickers. Look at that. Look at that. And the blood also looks like maps to me. Look at that. Amazing. Amazing stuff. And lovely Martin, one of the Common Knowledge crew, came up with all these wonderful questions for me. And I'm going to tackle at least one of them during this show if I have time. I sincerely hope I do. And what else can I say other than thank you so much, taking care of me, for receiving me so well, for the incredible support. Scotland, I love you. You're like a second home to me. Absolutely love you. And I love all the crew that I got to meet. Yippee! Yes. More gifts than Starmer, Daniel. You're absolutely right. My chest is still a little bit chesty, people, but I'm going to do my best. You're not jealous, Soul Sand? No, of course you're not. Mention the brownie if you dare, says Teresa. Oh, yeah, Teresa gave me a lovely cake, as you do. A lovely cake, brownie kind of cake. Haven't actually tried it, but I'm sure it is gloriously fabulous. Good morning, Grand Risings to you all. And has anyone else had this show taken off YouTube? Not happy what they did to me. They should be very concerned. What's that, mate? Mark is from Dubai. Mark, don't get in any trouble over there. And if you do, then call on Rada Sterling from Detained in Dubai. She was on the show on Friday, but do be careful because Dubai is not so fabulous, is it? I mean, I know it's fabulous, but legally it's not so fabulous. And let us welcome in lovely. Here's Randi. Well, it's not Randi, it's Randi's parrot. Can you see it? Randi in the comments. This is where Randi watches Wake Up. Randi is a regular live chatter. He's already with us, I think. Yeah, Randy. Randy loves hedgehogs as well, apparently. He said, hi, Sonia. Here's a photo of me and the parrot watching your show. Can everybody see the parrot at the side? Bless. Bless. I love it. Please keep sending your Where I Watch Wake Up pictures. I absolutely love them. I love them. It's wonderful to see them. Yes, it is. It's absolutely wonderful. And I appreciate you all, each and every one of you. Thank you, Randy. Much appreciated. And good morning, Charlotte, Emma, UK. How are you, doll? How are you, sweetheart? Right. Let us not waste another moment. I want to bring in our first guest. Very interesting stuff here. Let's go for it, right? Let's go for it. Good morning, Dave Morris. How are you?
Not too bad over in North London.
Is that where you are, Dave? You've got any lights in the sky over North London?
Grey cloud at the moment.
Lovely to have you with us. Dave is a special kind of campaigner, and I very much appreciate the work that Dave does. Dave is part of COPS. What does COPS stand for, Dave?
Campaign Opposing Police Surveillance. And we particularly are mobilising around the Spy Cops, which was a secret unit in the Metropolitan Police for about 40 years until about 10 years ago when it was exposed, who targeted campaigning and political and environmental organisations with long-term infiltration. This
has been going on a very long time. Exactly. And you do sterling work and it's important work, but this has been going on a long time. You sent me your flyer about basically 50 years of campaigning. So we've been infiltrated for an awful long time, at least half a century, right?
So it started with the growing protests against the Vietnam War, which alarmed the authorities around the world. Although, of course, the campaign was ultimately successful and the US military was forced to withdraw. But they set up this secret unit in London and started infiltrating the anti-war groups. Then the security services got involved and thought this was an excellent vehicle for infiltrating left-wing groups, campaign groups, anti-apartheid movements. Even left-wing MPs were targeted, animal rights organisations, and so on. I was involved with London Greenpeace in the 90s.
I did wonder what your interest was because you're so passionate about this. I thought there must be an angle where he really understands this on a very personal level. So you're involved with Greenpeace, got you?
So I was involved with London Greenpeace, which is an independent Greenpeace group. The first such group in Europe, which was founded in the early 70s. But in the 80s and 90s, we were targeted. In particular, I was involved with a campaign against McDonald's. And, you know, it's supporting workers' rights and opposing advertising to children and all the other things that you could imagine that McDonald's would be criticised for. But the infiltrators in my group, London Greenpeace, started collaborating with McDonald's secretly, which is basically illegal, to try to undermine. And in fact, they were monitoring our legal advice. We eventually fought a libel case, which became the longest case in English legal history. We weren't represented. We had to represent ourselves, myself and Helen Steele. And we were advised throughout for free by someone called Keir Starmer, who did a great job for free, helping us behind the scenes. So that was all monitored by by infiltrators. In fact, one of the infiltrators had a 2-year relationship with my co-defendant Helen Steele.
Right, I've talked to Helen.
One of the scandals.
Oh yes,
and there are many of them that got front page news that forced Theresa May, when she was Home Secretary, to call a undercover policing public inquiry, which has been going on for the last 8 years and cost about £100 million so far.
Good Lord, really that much? Wow. So that's the Special Demonstration Squad, of course, that we're talking about. As we say, they've been in existence for at least half a century, infiltrated at least 1,000 groups, 4 different shades and kind of denominations and what they're representing. And it is interesting. I mean, it is interesting. You're talking about McLibel, of course, as it became known by the tabloids, right? And great case, actually, great. And both you and Helen absolutely were phenomenal throughout this. But this is really some very dark stuff, isn't it, that's taken place?
It is. I mean, it's hard to dress it up.
Well, there's no dressing up, and we shan't dress it up. No.
It's the reason it was secret is because it was all the authorities up to cabinet level recognised that if this came out, it would be a huge scandal. Policing is supposed to be neutral and concerned about, genuine threats to the public and stuff like that. And these were all campaign organisations that were trying to make the world a better place, but were challenging the status quo. So the establishment thought this is a great idea, infiltrating such groups, hoovering up mountains of information, personal information, which could be used, for example, for blacklisting, for example, in the construction industry. There's our leaflet there.
There it is, indeed.
Years of campaigning.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so they blacklisting of people, trade unionists that were fighting for health and safety issues, acting as agent provocateurs. I mean, one of the most controversial deployments, if you like, was someone called Bob Lambert.
Let's get to him in a second, right? Let me just give a little bit back, because absolutely, I have Bob Lambert down here in bold letters to ask you about, okay? Because as you say, one of the most controversial. So just a little bit more background, and that is, to our knowledge, the police, so they ran this covert operation. They sent out at least 140 undercover officers, as you say, spy on more than 1,000 political groups. Bob Lambert, absolutely up there. He obviously has been testifying, hasn't he, at the inquiry? But before we get to Bob Lambert, can we talk about some of the more egregious stuff that these people have done? And one of them has to be going so far as to actually have children with these campaigners. That I can't even get my head around it. It's unconscionable. Talk to us.
So basically, about 60 women over the last 40 years of the life of that unit were targeted for sexual relationships because they were useful for these male police officers' covers, for hoovering up information, for bolstering their pretense at being an active campaigner. And this really is probably the most disgusting aspect of the tactics that they used. And at least 2 of them had children with campaigners and then disappeared. And often they faked breakdowns, or they claimed they had to move abroad suddenly because they were on the run or something. And these women that were targeted spent years, if not sometimes decades, looking for these people that were in their lives. And this is really what broke the whole scandal, because they discovered after a very long, they discovered there was a few of them, began to meet up with each other, compared notes, discovered these were actually police officers. And, this really broke the news. Also, at the same time, one of the police officers turned whistleblower and said that he had been targeted against the Stephen Lawrence campaign, Stephen Lawrence, who was murdered by racists, and the police failed to investigate properly. And he said that this unit actually tried to monitor and infiltrate the family campaign to get justice for their son. So they were infiltrating the campaign for justice and failing to properly investigate the racist murders.
I can't even get my head around it. It's that bad. So the inquiry is headed by retired Judge Sir John Mitting. It started hearing evidence, I think, it's summer of 2020, after a series of delays, obviously, because it was the C-19 period. We've also had published a full list of groups that have been targeted, right? But let us talk about the characters. Let us go to Bob Lambert, because he has to be somebody who is, literally at the forefront of all this in terms of the inquiry. Talk to us.
So for the last 4 or 5 weeks, the evidence that's been given has been about the mid to late 80s, early 90s, because they're doing it like 10 years at a time. We've only got up to the 90s.
Wow.
And there's been a big focus on London Greenpeace. And Bob Lambert has turned out to be a very central character, who had relationships with 4 different women over a 4-year period while he was involved with London Greenpeace. He wasn't actually that interested in London Greenpeace. He was more interested in trying to get involved with animal rights and the Animal Liberation Front. And the only way he actually could get involved was to get involved. And he has like 6 witnesses have testified that he was in a small group of people, 4 people, who were involved with protests against fur departments in West End stores, and he was involved with planting incendiary devices to set off the sprinkler systems that would damage all the fur. He planted one. It is claimed. He denies it, but everybody else says he's lying. These are professional liars, don't forget.
Absolutely. Most deceptive.
And as a result of that came about £9 million damage was caused to Debenham stores. It's a huge scandal. Evidence came out that the CCTV went missing. None of the police investigators were able to see the CCTV. So he's really hung, drawn and quartered. But
this is textbook corruption, though, isn't it? Absolute textbook.
Yeah, but do you know what? He was really just trying to impress his bosses,
right?
With how far he could go. I mean, 2 people went to jail for a long time for those incendiary devices. But Bob Lambert, ended up having these relationships, fathering a child, then disappearing. But now the chickens have come home to roost, and it's this whole unit is so discredited. The Metropolitan Police have had to apologise for targeting of women, for targeting anti-racist campaigners.
Not enough.
For using the identities of deceased children.
Oh, I know. That's the other thing they did. There was like no low.
This is the biggest scandal that the Metropolitan Police has ever faced. And it's part of a series of inquiries and reports about institutional racism, institutional sexism, and corruption in the Metropolitan Police. So, there's a bigger picture here.
Massive picture.
Yeah.
What do you think about this comment? I'd put money on the exact same thing going on now. Nothing will have changed. What do you think? Do you think it's all at an end?
Well, I think, they use different tactics maybe now through social media and so on. But I think the question we all have to ask is, who is on the right side of history? Right. Is it these undercover police? Or is it the campaigns that they targeted? Just look at some of the campaigns they targeted.
Indeed.
The US was forced out of Vietnam. Victory. Apartheid was overthrown in South Africa. Blacklisting has been declared illegal. Fox hunting. They were obsessed with infiltrating hunt sabotage. People that try to stop hunting.
Wow.
Fox hunting has now been declared illegal. They infiltrated the anti-poll tax movement that I was heavily involved with. That was abolished because people refused to pay it. The McLibel case, we finally won that, where it was a moral victory, and then it was a victory in the European Court. And I could go on. So I think the message is, keep on campaigning, join movements for change. We are powerful. Let's change the world.
I love all that message. That is exactly the kind of message that we like around here on Wake Up. But of course, in order to be able to do all that, we have to make sure that we've properly cleaned up history, right? That there are no dark corners, that no stone unturned, every cliche humanly possible in order to be able to expose this, because this is an extremely dark period. Obviously, in our history, as you say, it probably appears in all manner of guises. I want to ask you about this as well. And that is, one of the comments says you can only get to a certain level in the police if you aren't a Freemason, and that's from an ex-cop. What do you think about that comment?
I know nothing about Freemasons, and obviously they exist in some form or other. But I think the problem with the police, like in any hierarchy, is that's the problem. It's a hierarchy, and any hierarchy is oppressive, because to move up the hierarchy, you have to do with what those at the top and at the next level want you to do. So it's a power structure all geared to having more and more power. And that's the problem in the world, is that there's institutions that have power over ordinary people, or they want to make money. So the two big problems in the world is power and money. And really what we need is a world where people share things, come together, make the decisions themselves. So movements for change are not just anti a particular problem, but they're also showing that ordinary people can collectively make decisions and, try and get a world where ordinary people are the center of the decision making.
I love that. That's a very strong, powerful message. Thank you for joining us this morning, Dave. Really appreciate it. Great overview of what's going on, the level of corruption that we're talking about, which has been extreme. I can't actually think of any other police corruption to this extreme in my lifetime, and certainly as an investigative journalist. But we really appreciate your work. I will put a link. In fact, I've already put a link in the description to Dave's work at Campaign for Opposing Police Surveillance. Everybody, this is Dave Morris, and he's been brilliant this morning. Absolutely appreciate you, Dave. Take good care of yourself. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. What a magnificent overview of a criminal story. It's criminal. The police have been criminals. Imagine being an activist and you fall in love with somebody who's infiltrated the group, and you have a child with that infiltrator, and your child spends 2 decades looking for their father, only then to discover that their father never loved their mother, that their father was sent in to do a job, and that was to expose your mother. Imagine that. These people are scandalous. And also one of the things that they did, which we just touched upon, was when the police were setting up new identities, they were literally using the identities of dead children. Unconscionable. No low is literally too low enough for these people. Let's read some of your comments. Healing the Silence says, thank you, Dave. Absolutely shocking how long it's been going on. Indeed, absolutely. Or shocking and tragic, says Teresa. DD77 says police and criminals have the same psychological profiles. And Ray J says police and now the mafia. There's a lot of truth in this. Vile, and our viewers are not happy. Oh, somebody, sorry, just pop that up. The government is a mafia, says the Blue Nomad. Hello, everyone. Hope you're well. The first topic is shocking, says Sally. Yes, it is indeed, Sally. We like to wake you up with a bang around here. Oh, yes. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, of course. What else have we got going on here? Police probably still at it, Cara. Cara, we cannot rule it out. It would be very silly of us to. It would be ridiculous for us to go naively, oh, well, they got caught, so it all stopped. As Dave said, they basically probably resurfaced under a different guise, to paraphrase him. So, yes, absolutely outrageous stuff that has been taking place in our name. And look at the millions that have been wasted. They can't afford to keep pensioners warm, but they can spend absolute fortune on spying on us. What a world. What a world. Thank goodness there are good people in this world. And that brings me to my next guest, because remember we launched quite recently this whole idea. Let me just mop my mouth. We launched this whole idea that we really need to support smaller businesses with integrity, smaller businesses who have stood up to be counted. And they're so few and far between. Obviously, over the last 4 years, it's been the biggest transference of wealth, certainly in my lifetime, from small independent businesses to the conglomerates, right? All part of the stakeholder capitalism. So you have people like Vanguard, companies like Vanguard and BlackRock who benefit as opposed to the small business holder. Well, I say, well, sod that. Let's start promoting small businesses who have stood up to be counted. And this is somebody that I'd actually have talked to through the whole C19 madness. She's going to join us now. Here she is, lovely Anna Redfern. How are you, Anna?
Hey Sonia, I'm very well, thank you. I've got my morning coffee, so it's all good.
Good shout. Love the background. That's looking lovely there. Anna is from Cinema and Co. You're in Cardiff, right?
Swansea.
Swansea.
Graveyard of ambition.
Sorry about that. They're in Swansea. Of course they're in Swansea. That's a good start, isn't it? Anna has suffered everything, really. You've suffered court, you suffered cancel culture, you suffered fines after crowdfunding, you name it. They came after you full pelt. And let me find. Look at this, everybody. Cinema boss fined 15K, but avoids prison. That's a damning front page, right? They came after you full force, didn't they? The judiciary, the police, and media. Talk to us, darling. Talk to us.
Yes, well, I was railroaded through the legal system because they wanted to make an example of me, and it worked. It scared all the other businesses into compliance, and I was just left there high and dry. And if I hadn't pleaded guilty in court, I'd have gone to jail for Christmas and missed the last 4 weeks of my mother's life as well. So, but yeah, they wouldn't even let me adjourn the case based on the fact that I was my mum's full-time carer. So yeah, she actually passed away the day my appeal was due to be heard in the Crown Court. And yes, the whole experience was just so harrowing, but it was also a very rude wake-up call into the corruption. I've only just caught the end of your last interview, but yes, our institutions are very corrupt, and yes, I've had first-hand experience of that. So yes, I'm still battling, and 3 years on, almost to the day I was in court, actually. So yes, it's been quite an experience, to say the least.
You are a phenomenon in your own right. It's very hard when you have the full, especially at that time. And obviously, as you know, we've got to be super careful because we're on YouTube and they've got their various medical misinformation policies. So we're going to be careful how we say this. But you were prepared to battle the powers that be. And that would have been very hard as an independent cinema owner. Let's give everybody a good look at your lovely cinema. Look at this. This is where people want to go to, right? Instead of these kind of like, straight off the factory production line cinemas. This is wonderful. This has real character. How hard was it when you were at the coalface? So what did they want you to do? They wanted you to keep the cinema closed, right?
Yeah, so they basically swooped down and closed me down. I wasn't even present, and declared me a threat to public health. There's even still a directive on the Welsh Government's website about our closure, and I've got it framed actually in the
Good
cafe.
girl. Yeah. I got you. Just like I've got my Ofcom ruling ready to be framed as well, because these are badges of honor. This shows that we were prepared to stand up and be counted, and you were. And mainstream media came after you. Look at this BBC headline: COVID, Cinema and Co faces bigger fine after crowdfunding. And it was all designed to demonize you, wasn't it? And really kind of break your morale.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. And I remember telling them not to use that photo because it looks like I'm not taking anything seriously. And
right. They did it deliberately. They did it anyway, didn't they? But the thing is that you're not averse to controversy, and more power to you, because one of the reasons that people have a real problem with the big commercial chains, as one example, is because they're also captured. You can't say this, you can't do that. You can't be an independent thinker or an independent speaker. And it's all about censorship. I mean, it's literally everything has been turned completely on its head, but not in your world. And so you've done things like you've hosted Katie Hopkins as one example. And what happened as a consequence of that?
Well, nothing prepared me for the civil unrest that having a stand-up comedy show called Live, Love, Laugh would cause, and the hypocrisy of it as well. And there were quite a few of my friends stood opposite protesting in my direction, and there was even a woke fest organised in protest at that. And Katie Hopkins has got the biggest balls on a woman that I've seen in this this country. She is a media
cough.
He's a media manufactured monster, the antithesis of what the media want you to believe. So until you've met her, then you can't cast aspersions like stand up to racism. There was even a local councillor stood over there, and they were chanting "Nazi scum, get off our streets" in my direction. And still to this day, I get cancelled for having Katie Hopkins, but that's how bad things are these days. They're even trying to police our humour, and all we've ever done is to be advocates of freedom of choice and freedom of speech. And because once we lose that, we've had it, basically.
And the thing is, you don't have to be a fan of Katie Hopkins. Some of our viewers aren't, but you don't have to be a fan of her to understand that freedom of speech is one of the most important things that we have and we must have. And this image that I've got on the screen actually shows at the top, the protest that you were dealing with, and then actually what was really going on inside your establishment and how mixed the clientele is, right? So, and that's the reality of it, right? Blacks and mixed race and Hindus and Muslims and whites and Christians all coming together. That's the reality, right?
Yes, without a doubt. And, context is everything, isn't it? And that's my sense of humour has seen me through this ordeal as well. So, and that's what Katie's very good at doing, is laughing. And the person she takes the mickey out of the most is herself as well. So so yes, and if you don't like her, don't come, don't try and spoil it for those who are
and that I think is key, and that's what we need to adhere to more, is this whole idea, just because you don't like someone or something, that doesn't mean that it's any of your business to stop other people having a choice. We need choice. But as I say, you got monstered for all manner of reasons. One of my favorite things that you stood up against, of course, was the implementation of the COVID passes. And again, all over mainstream media, and ITV covered it and various things. They described it as an independent cinema in Swansea has vowed not to implement the Welsh government's COVID pass scheme after it was extended to cinemas and theatres earlier this week. So how did that fully pan out?
Oh, well, yeah, the COVID passport scheme is just so discriminatory. And I guess because I've got a children's rights background, I was acutely aware of what our human rights should be. And I think that's what the pandemic really highlighted, is how people are blissfully unaware of what their rights are. And the passport was just too much control. It's none of our business whether you've been vaccinated or not. And again, it was a choice thing, and people forget that responsibility comes with those rights as well. And so yes, it's the passport scheme is just a ridiculous thing. And the irony of it was, I got closed down on Beaujolais Day, which is the second money spinner after Christmas in South Wales. So all the pubs, they were rammed to the rafters. But just because I had cinema in my name, I had to, have this COVID passport scheme in place. So yes, it just didn't make any sense at all. All the guidance was very nonsensical and contradictory as well. So yeah.
So here's the thing, is that it is very hard, and you look fabulous, Anna. Nobody would really ever guess what you've been through. You look amazing, but it does take its toll, doesn't it, when you're battered that much? Talk to us about the kind of human cost of this.
Yeah, well, I must admit, I'm still open through at my own expense. Even at to my health, at one point, I ended up in hospital for 11 days, and of course, being a business owner, and I've made the mistake of making myself indispensable. But it's been a really tough time, and of course, being a single mum as well, and I've been having to bring my kids to work with me, which is, they love it, which is great, but yeah, it's been a real juggling exercise, and I've literally doing everything myself. It's only recently I've been able to afford to pay other people to help. But when we first went into lockdown, I had a whole team, and yes, I got to a point in my business where I could leave it because it was starting to run itself. And then I went on holiday for 10 days and came back to a lockdown Britain. So and it hasn't been the same since, and everything seems to be a battle these days. But that being said, we're really concentrating on creating an alternative to this corruption and the broken institutions that don't seem fit for purpose anymore. So like we're a direct democracy advocate, which the Swiss use to great positive effect. And we're trying to create a community assembly, a local one in Swansea, to put democracy back in the hands of the people where it belongs, because it just feels like it's an illusion in this country. And it's a really life shouldn't be a battle, and that's what it feels like since COVID.
Yeah, indeed. But on reflection, would you have done the same thing again?
Without a doubt, yes, because I couldn't, I'd watch my children sleeping and thinking, I felt like such a fraud. I felt I was pretending to comply out of fear. And that's what the pandemic was based on, really, living in fear, which is the lowest vibration, isn't it? So, yes, I couldn't continue like that. So yes, I've stood by my principles and continue to do so.
You can look yourself in the mirror, you can sleep okay, you can say you did the best by your family, by your children. All of this is really good, right? All of this is really good and really important. But as I say, it takes its toll. It's not been easy for you. You need support. Well, how can people support you?
Well, we've got a shadow ban on social media, so our events don't get the engagement and reach that they used to. And of course, that's our shop front now. So yes, following us on social media would be nice. And we've also got a Buy Me a Coffee page as well. So yes, that would really help. So yeah, that's what another struggle really is, trying to get our events out there. So yeah, that would be a really big help, because our social media following just seems to be dropping as time goes on. But yeah, that would be a really big support. And I must thank everybody as well who donated to the crowdfunder, and also everybody who helped me in my time of need when all my staff were scared off by the council. So I was literally left single-handedly with a load of helpful, kind human beings helping me. So.
Well, when push comes to shove, I had a beautiful weekend in Scotland, and that's when you start to get back in touch with people who are like you, your tribe, as it were, and then you are reminded that all is okay with the world, really. There's awful, heinous, horrendous genocides and corruptions and all manner of things that are taking place in the world, absolutely. But we always have to, if we are not directly engaged in that, my attitude is we have to maintain as kind of upbeat and vibrational lifting as an attitude as possible, because we can't help anybody else if we're in negativity, can we? If we're deep down in the mud, kicked to the curb, we can't help anybody.
Exactly, yes. So I think that's part of our attraction as well. You touched saying about your tribe, and it really does attract like-minded people here. We will continue to provide a safe and welcoming space, and and there is safety in numbers, because it can feel quite lonely thinking the way we do, and questioning the narrative. So it's nice to create that community feel, and people feel comfortable enough to express their views and not be judged. And
did you say question the narrative, Anna? It's my
yes,
mug. My mug. Listen, I really appreciate what you've done. I know a lot of people have as well. We've already put we've already put a link in the description to Anna's website, as well as Buy Me a Coffee. Please do so, because we need to support each other. That's the reality. We need to support each other, because for sure as hell, that lot, the parasitical elite, are not going to support us. Their aim is absolutely to drain us, to defund us, to have us on our knees. And Anna is proof positive that they didn't get her. They didn't reduce you, Anna, no matter what, no matter how hard it was. And I would argue that adversity is what makes people, right? That's the reality. So you're back and ready to fight. What's going to go on in 2025 at your cinema?
Right. Well, we're doing cinema and co-parenting. As a single mum myself, I know how difficult it is to have a social life. So yes, on a monthly basis, we do that. We also do singles nights as well. And we now do cinema and convenience. So you book us to watch a film of your choice at a time that suits you, because COVID's really affected the cinema industry very negatively. So
Exactly. Everybody, this is the lovely Anna Redfern. She's from Cinema Co in Swansea, not Cardiff, Swansea, lovely Swansea. And we really appreciate you, Anna. We appreciate you standing up to be counted then, and we appreciate you standing up to be counted now. She is an inspirational soul, healing the silence. He says, such an inspirational soul. And it goes to show what is possible when you don't stop fighting like Anna. She is a cool cat, Cara. She's a cool cat. She certainly is. That's why her establishment looks so darn cool, because she's cool. Amazing, Anna, says Jenny from the block. I think we can all see you've got a lot of support here. Anna, take good care of yourself. Wishing you a wonderful week. Everybody, Anna Redfern, please check out the links in the description below and support this amazing woman, because she's one of us and we need to make sure she keeps rising. Take good care of yourself, Anna. Lovely to have you with us this morning.
thank you, Sonia.
Pleasure. Take good care. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely? Yes, she is. Cheers, Anna. Cheers, Anna. Right. I've got a picture there that I want to try and get rid of because, right. She's lovely and I like her very, very much. Yeah, I do. And it's really important, I think, that we do support small businesses. I think that's absolutely vital, because we've seen what's happened. There's a takeover, obviously, stakeholder capitalism, which we're all subject to. So it's absolutely vital that we do. So if you have any spare pennies, please do put it her way right now. Okay. Very much appreciated. And I'm going to quickly address a comment, because when people are anonymous asking very leading questions, then it can be problematic. But I saw that my lovely crazy bunny said that I would address it if I could, and I will address it. And that was somebody called Tyrant Finder, who was after Ash. Do you remember Ash? You came on before and people were saying that he was making signs to the police and he was infiltrator. And this Tyrant Finder character is like, how can you talk about infiltration, have Ash on? The jury is who I made it very clear and very plain then. I am not going to tar and feather a person based on one thing. That might be the low level that you need for evidence, but I need much higher, because I also have to go on what have they also previously done, right? Ash and I have had conversations about this, and as I made it absolutely clear when Ash came on before, I really had a problem with that video. It was clear that he appeared to be communicating with the cop, but why? Right? So to automatically leap into got to be a police infiltrator, I'm not going there. Not yet. Give me more evidence. Give me more evidence. And that's what I will say on that. Thank you, Tommy. We appreciate that. Thank you, Julie. Give me more evidence. Where is your video you did with dogs or sheep? What the heck? What's that about, Jawad? I don't understand what that said. What's that? Good song. Isn't she lovely? I love Isn't She Lovely? It's a beautiful song. Important. Let's not tar and feather people without real proper due evidence. I know people can get caught in all manner of things. Now, of course, it was moving imagery, so we could clearly see there was some sort of weird communication taking place. But I've been caught in pictures where I'm shaking hands with somebody, and the next thing I'm like, oh, she's a major leading player in the Freemasons. Yeah, because women aren't they? And so I know how easy it is that people can take imagery, capture you in a moment, and then portray you as something you're not. So I don't want to fall into that. Judgment is a dangerous game, unless you're getting a good one, Randy. Smiley face. There's too much finger pointing, says the Blue Nomad. And I think this is true, because they've got us pointing at each other. So I think we have to be more discerning. I'm not saying that Tyrant Finder didn't have a point, and I don't take that away from him. Don't. Okay, Jan, no idea what that's about. What's that? Get Ash back on. He has almost disappeared on SM since the accusations, says Vicky. Yeah, Ash should be welcome. What's this? I have no idea what this person is saying, but it looks highly likely that he's going to be absolutely deleted by my mods because it seems to be talking weird stuff. A good amount of evidence is needed. Oh yeah, Jackie. When you look at what somebody has done and then they're caught doing something odd, it was odd. I don't take that away from anybody. I'm not gaslighting anybody. I saw it myself. It was odd, but I'm still not going to hang, draw and quarter him based on that. No. Lots of middle fingers are used, says Cavan. Discernment is key these days. And a gut feeling. Yeah, Chris, I can dig that too. I can dig that. Can't even fart without being caught doing something odd. Talk to the cows, Halo. Talk to the cows. Crazy Bunny, was it a wee sado? Yes. I love, what was that, Jack? I can't remember what I've said, but yeah, great. Didn't show on my chat. Wild living is building your own dwelling and no one noticing for 4 years. You then earn, what's this? What are you talking about, Shug? You then earn the right to live there. It's now 10 years. What have you been doing? What has Shug been doing? Right, darling people, let us move on to some news. What are we going to start on? What shall we start on? I am going to start. I think we're going to have to start on the lights in the sky, aren't we? Come on now. I think we're going to have to start with the lights in the sky. Have I brought some pictures over? I sincerely hope so. Let's see what I've got that we can see. Because there's loads going on, isn't there? And lots being said at the moment. There we go. Let's have a look at this. See what we've got here. Let's bring this up, shall we? Let's bring this up. And what do we follow Shem the lawyer? What's that? Lawful rebellion Britain. Oh, please, Sonia, could we see Shem on your show? Regards to the most needed and important subject in this country, child snatching by the government. Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. I covered the whole idea of, or the whole issue rather, of child stealing by the state over a long period of time. Almost impossible to get coverage in legacy media. And there are some diabolical cases. There are cases where mothers have had their children taken off them and given to the satanic ritualistic fathers. That's happened to mothers that have had children taken off and given to the abusive fathers. And it has happened in reverse, but primarily taking off the mothers. It's true. Look it up. You can make your own off. What Project BlueBeam? Let's bring it on. I take it everybody is familiar with Project BlueBeam, right? Project BlueBeam, very interesting, of course. And but let's first of all, let me have a look at these. Let's look at this first, right? So this is imagery over New Jersey. And what can you see? You can see lots of things that look very drone-like, right? Well, that's been going on now for probably at least a month. And when I was in Scotland on over the weekend, on Friday, we had quite a fair bit of discussion at dinner about UFOs and drones. I was asked about drones over UK air bases. This was on Saturday at the talk. But so it all seems to be happening all at once at the moment over the US and the UK. And one of the headlines yesterday on the Mail Online, and bear in mind, the Daily Mail Online is the most read English language publication online. Actually, it might be second now, but it's huge. It's absolutely millions and millions and millions of viewers every month. So to have this as a leading headline was interesting. And that was UFO alarm in Britain, the mystery UFO drones over US air bases in Britain that have baffled witnesses. And my dear friend Jim Core of the Cause tweeted, "I'm so bored with this fake alien invasion. Already bring on the zombie apocalypse." So some people are a little questioning about it. And lovely Curly Crew in the comments this morning said, "Grand Rising, can we please touch on the drones not being the same as the orbs? The orbs are clearly being seen in the day. There are two different entities." There really are. Angie can't see F all in the sky. Total cloud cover for days. Yep, it was well advertised, says Shug. That's a great comment. Let me bring that up. I think that's a fair point. Yep, it was well advertised. It was indeed. Daily Mail is now behind a paywall. Not if you know how to do it, Cara. Not if you know how to do it. What's this? Shalini, New Jersey and New York skies have shed loads of airplanes going over. Honestly, some of the photos and vids I've seen on X and other places have been planes. BBC suggested drones are Russian. Interesting. So I've listened to quite a lot of people over the last couple of days, including people who supply equipment to the US government. And let me work through this a little bit. Obviously, Donald Trump, in typical style, says, shoot them down. Shoot them down. Because what are we to make of, lots of what appears to be unmanned aircraft in the skies? And a lot of these appear to be sort of mysterious, droney type aircraft off the east coast of America over New Jersey. And Project BlueBeam, which we touched upon. Project BlueBeam, I was so shocked to see that it was in a headline yesterday. I was like, what? They're making it mainstream because, of course, it's still considered a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory, quote unquote, that originated with Serge Monast. He died in 1996 and he became known for his promotion of the Project BlueBeam theory. And basically, the idea is that Project BlueBeam is a plot to create this totalitarian one world government, and it acts by replacing existing religions with a sort of new age belief system using NASA technology, and involves a faked alien invasion or faked extraterrestrial encounter. The idea is that it's meant to deceive nations into uniting under a world government. You can see how that all works. We talked about that at the weekend because, excuse me, I'm so sorry. My water is coming back at me. I hope that didn't sound too loud into the... I'm only human. I'm warts and all. You know that about me. Anyway, so the thing is that we talked about this at the weekend because the fact is, and I've talked about this for a very long time anyway, but the reality is what would make us all unite as one on Earth? And that is outsiders, like outsiders from another planet, right? So given that they want us to be quite clearly a one world government, we know that would be a good way around it. But Serge Monast was basically written off as some kind of lunatic conspiracy theorist, and but many of us believe that there was great validity in what he had to say. Many of us. But what we've heard from the US departments now is Alejandro Mayorkas. He is from the Department of Homeland Security. I heard him in interview, and he's deploying drone detection systems to New Jersey and New York. And that's after weeks of these sightings. And both Mayorkas and New York Governor Kathy Hochul have confirmed these plans, that these plans are going to happen. Hochul wrote, in response to my calls for additional resources, our federal partners are sending a drone detection system to New York. And there are mixed ideas about what this is. But here's the thing, is that the last people I would choose to tell me what's going on in our skies are government representatives, UK or US. Right? They're the last people on Earth. But I think it's really important to listen to them in the same way. I think it's important for me to also read what legacy media are writing or saying, because we need to know in order to be able to countenance some of their madness. That's what we need to do. So let me just run through some of the ideas that they've been talking about. One of the ideas is this whole idea that the drones over New Jersey are some sort of alien tech taking place. And UFO experts say there's something nefarious about this. That's one of the things. Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said the initial assessment is that this is not the work of a foreign adversary or a foreign entity. The FBI and Homeland Security, as I say, are investigating. And politicians, as you can expect, have conflicting takes on this. Yes, they do. John Kirby, who is a national security spokesman, said this week that many of the reported drones are manned aircraft being operated lawfully. And residents in New Jersey have described the drones as gathering in clusters at night and flying with their lights off. Well, that's where it kind of hits a bit of an interesting snag. And actually, what I noticed was that the Pentagon had put out a report only last month prior to these drone sightings. And this Pentagon review has revealed that hundreds of new sightings of unidentified and unexplained aerial phenomena was arriving and being seen, but no indications suggesting an extraterrestrial origin. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot believe we are the only living creation in the universe. That sounds ridiculously arrogant and naive to me. So I definitely believe there is something out there. And I think that it's highly likely that something out there has been something here for a very long period of time. I'm not sure how far-fetched, for example, Men in Black really was. How far-fetched was it? Who knows? Who knows? But the review that was conducted by the Pentagon literally included hundreds of cases of misidentified balloons, birds, satellites, right? So there were some of those things, right? But there were some that were completely unexplainable, can't make any sense of them, okay? And the Pentagon's review actually covered 757 cases from around the world that were reported to US authorities from the 1st of May 2023 to the 1st of June 2024. So only over a period of just over a year, there were over 757 reported cases. This total included 272 incidents that occurred before that time period, though, but had not been previously reported. The great majority of the incidents occurred in airspace, but 49 occurred at altitudes estimated to be at least 62 miles, which is considered space from their perspective. That's what it's considered. And Ray J says it's lost Amazon delivery drones with dodgy AI GPS. I see our viewers are up to their usual business. I do love them. I love them. I love them. But at the moment, the drones are avoiding capture, which I also think is interesting. I sort of, to a degree, actually agree with Donald Trump's take on it. And that is, seen as they can't identify them, they could be anything and they could be anybody. So maybe shoot them down is the solution. Who knows to that one? But I was listening to this guy this morning, and actually Joe Rogan had signposted to him. I can't remember his name, but he works with the US government, some kind of supplying role. And he talked about how drones have no reason to be in the air at night unless you are doing law enforcement, such as search and rescue. And he said, first of all, they don't see at night, so there's no reason, and you need to do mapping during the day, right? So those lights on during at night will not be, in his opinion, lawful drones out there doing a business. The only reason, he said, though, right? The only reason, it's a caveat, the only reason why you would fly an unmanned aircraft at night is if you were looking for something like a person or trying to detect something, some sort of gas detection. And what he was really saying was that, are these drones attempting to smell something on the ground, gas leaks, radioactive material, perhaps? And he thought that the most likely reason for the drones is because they are sweeping, as I say, for gas leaks or material or nuclear material. What do you think? What do you think in the comments? What do you think in the comments? Let me catch up with you. Also, the size of the drones are the size of an SUV, exactly, or cargo size, bioweapon delivery system. Yes. Halo wants to be a flying angel. Great. We love that. Yes, they're huge. They're absolutely huge, apparently. Maybe looking for cows farting, says Cavan. What did I tell you about our viewers? There's something else, aren't they? AI saw a UFO back in 1998. Now, Randi, I met somebody, or there was somebody in the audience on Saturday who said AI doesn't actually exist. Now, I'm going to make a bit of a mess attempting to repeat what he said, but essentially, when we talk to what's become known as AI, what it's actually doing is searching for all this information that already exists. Oh, Craig, I forgot to copy over that image of me that you'd done on AI from Saturday, which is hilarious. It's so funny. But actually, I wonder if you're listening to this, lovely man from the audience, I should have got your name and details. I'd love you to come on and talk more about what you had to say. And he said he's worked in IT for absolutely years, and AI isn't a real thing. DD777 says real intelligence barely exists. AI joke. How can intelligence be artificial? Okay, there's a whole theme about cow farting going on in the live comments. What are we to make of these people? What do you think about Project BlueBeam, people? What do you think? I remember that guy, says Crazy Bunny. I bet you do. What's this, Sean? Let's bring up Sean's mother's encounter. My mother had a very close encounter in the 1950s in Ireland. I've observed orbs following a plane around 8 years ago, so I believe UFOs are real. I have an open mind on their origin. They have car-sized drones. They do, Stella. They do. Fighting over vanities. I'm not quite sure what that's in relation to. Let's have a proper talk about farts, says Randi. The drones, these people, they're kind of insane. I'm more concerned by rainbow beam. The drones, wait, let me get that, Jam. The drones suck the power out of other drones. Energy sucking systems suppressing the masses. What's this? Healing the silence. What's that? Oh, no. Project BlueBeam. Here we go, Jackie. Project BlueBeam is 100% real. I believe UFOs also exist. The best propaganda is rooted in truth. Yes, Mr. Mensa. Bus size, for goodness sake. Absolutely. Bus size drones. But they do exist, because I was listening to this representative saying, yeah, that you can get huge drones. Absolutely huge drones. I think the jury's still out in many respects on the use of drones. I'm not entirely convinced by them. Some of them can be really problematic. These drones are spraying us with poison at night, says MT70. And we can't rule that out. Vicky says just another fear device. Can't rule that out either. So I think this mystery is going to deepen before it's resolved, because we've got to remember, go back to 9/11, that infamous quote from a Tony Blair employee who worked in the press department, and that was, "It's a good day to bury bad news." Well, obviously the whole idea of, this impending notion that extraterrestrial beings are about to descend on us gets us distracted from all manner of things that are actually happening right here and now on Earth. You can't put handcuffs on these aliens, right? But we can put handcuffs on the rotten ones who are doing stuff to us right now. And I think we also need to absolutely be aware that they put out that Pentagon review a month ago for a reason. And then suddenly all these lights over New Jersey. And regarding over the US air bases in the UK, we have at least 100 US air bases in the UK. Some of them people don't even know about. We found out over the last year, and I reported on this show about how they were setting up air bases which were like secret projects. So who knows? They might be testing stuff over the UK skies. But it's interesting that it's primarily US and UK. But I also did see a picture, by the way, which obviously what I'm about to say is still in the UK. But I saw a picture of these kind of mysterious lights over Edinburgh as well, which again, I think is interesting. It's curious, isn't it? Please say hello to me, Sonia. There you go. Wait. Anne-Marie, where are you? I'm trying to say hello to you. Where did you just disappear to, my love? What did Ash? What the heck? Ash, I just saw somebody. I think, no. What was that? No, sorry, missed it. Literally, somebody just said, please say hello to me, Sonia. And I missed it. And I'm sorry about that. And then I saw something say Ash, and then that disappeared. Weird things are happening. I live close to Lake and Heath. Whoa. Mildenhall, 2 American air bases. Interesting. Anything to be observed there? Ange, anything? The skies are being slowly destroyed. Right. Halo, without the help of these mysterious lights. Yes, Cavan, if you found out about them, not very secret then. Absolutely. It's global. It is global, Armand. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. I agree with you. Shocked, over 100 US bases in UK. Yes, Marsh Girl. Indeed. Absolutely. China has military drones, thousands of them, says Cameron. Hamish wants us to stop paying tax, and it stops. Start a trust. Do not work for the nasty people. And Stella says how easy it is to have state-paid actors pretending to film a drone that's an AI simulation. UFO distraction from ongoing depopulation poisonings. We had to take all this into account. Manchester Airport too, says Mr. Mensa. Stephen, thank you. It's not supposed to be dull, ever, because I don't want to bore you, right? I haven't seen blue skies for weeks, says Jones. Yeah, I used to live in Lake and Heath, says Judith. Indeed, I got you. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about this a little bit. Curious, right? So obviously you recognize the people here. One is Luigi Mangione, who is accused of killing this other man, who is Brian Thompson, the former CEO of United Healthcare. This happened almost 2 weeks ago come Wednesday. And obviously since then, Luigi Mangione has been arrested and he's been charged and he's in prison. And lovely Amy contacted me. She wrote, someone has dug deep. Read Luigi Mangione. His family have a chain of nursing health facilities. All their money came from health insurance. And I looked into it and Amy's right. What What's going on, people? What is going on here? Okay. We must never rule out ever when an event is so high profile that it's shoved at us with such force. We must never rule out that it could be an agenda, that it could be a psyop, a false flag. We must never rule that out. And the deeper I'm looking into this, Luigi Mangione, the more suspect the whole thing becomes, not least because the images that we have of him appear not to be the same person. So thank you, Amy. I'm going to continue digging on that. But also, curiously, I think this is interesting as well. Did you know that the lawyer for Puff Daddy and the lawyer for Luigi Mangione are married? Husband and wife team, representing two of the biggest high-profile cases currently going on in the US. How curious is that? Isn't that curious? I think it's curious. I do. What are our thoughts about this shooter? Oh, there you go. Very said it. There you go. The world is a stage for staged events. It does feel like that, doesn't it? Cheeky says, question everything. And we must. No matter who the source is, we must question everything because a lot of what we know is lies. His history is his story. We know it. It's history written by the victors. And that's all people, you know, the moneyed people, the wealthy, the establishment. Part of my talk on Saturday, well, a huge part of my talk was about how we have literally watched the establishment crumble in 2024, all kinds of establishment, from religious to media to royal. And it's wonderful. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. It's a show, says Randi. Everything is a movie. Is everything? Is everything? I wonder. You can't believe a word they tell us. The fact they were so forthcoming with details is a giveaway. They never tell you anything normally. And this is a reality, right? John says, they hate people being armed against tyrannical governments. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution protects the right to keep and bear arms. Indeed, it does. He does look a bit DD. I cannot repeat that, but I'm sure everybody can read it. No such thing as coincidences. You're talking about the two lawyers being married, Silence. I know it's bizarre, isn't it? My voice is going. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to last till 11, but I'm going to do my best. Brian was going to, is this right? Here we go again. Brian was going to testify against Nancy Pelosi about insider trading. Is that right? Mark says, what a surprise. Think not. Lots of events have crisis actors, and we must remember that. Real news has ongoing updates. PSYOPs fade very quickly from the media. Great point, Chris, because it has to. And one of the reasons that PSYOPs generally tend to fade very quickly from the media is because they do the big spurt, but they can't allow it to be subject to endless scrutiny from the eyes of the world. And that's why it comes and goes very, very quickly. But I just think that whole thing is really curious about this shooter and about Brian Thompson. And also, let us not forget that the alleged shooter, rather, has been portrayed as an absolute hero, because what actually happened, that event, real, fake, staged, whatever, that event acted as a lightning rod for people who have been used and abused by the American healthcare system. Now, here's the thing, is I cannot see the government being behind something that is going to raise awareness to the horror story that is the American healthcare system. And one of the reasons why is because that insurance system that it's based on is what they've been trying to do in the UK for at least the last 15 years. So I can't see the government staging an event like that, because it wouldn't benefit them. Right. But it is curious, obviously, with, discovering that the family wealth, and Luigi Mangione does not fit the normal profile of a shooter. They do have profiles for them, obviously. And having your family wealth coming from a chain of private nursing health facilities is certainly not one of them. Makes no sense. It's a quinky dinky. It's a quinky dinky. That ain't no coincidence, says the Blue Nomad. You're talking about the husband and wife team, right? Right. Have you watched the film Above Majestic? If not, spare a couple of hours and take a look. Joseph, I have not. Joseph, I'm going to put that on screen, so I'm going to remind myself, right? Has anybody seen this film? Above Majestic. Anybody seen it? What's this? I've survived. Has nothing to do. What's that? I'm sure it has nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi, says Emma. Yes, I agree with you. I have to agree with you. Why do people want more and more money? You can't pay for your end to be extended. Cavan, what on earth is that about? Even employees of the insurance company are speaking out. Yes, on how awful the company is. That is absolutely true. I think I talked last week about this recording that I'd heard between United Healthcare employees in the call centers and this man who eventually sued them and won his case. But they were laughing about denying him healthcare treatment for cancer. And, obviously there's lots of problems with allopathic treatment. We know that. But if you've paid for insurance, right, for it, which you have, you're covered by insurance, you have to be protected. People have to be protected, whichever way, right? And what these private healthcare companies have done, they're unconscionable. They're very wicked people. Wicked people who run these organizations. There's no getting around it. What poor girl? Mark, no, that's not right. That's not right. Mark, you're quoting a James English interview with the foreign detective, right? I want some evidence. I want some evidence and some proof from Bernie, right? Bernie was actually on the very first Wake Up. Bernie was a guest and he gave us kind of an overview of his research under the name of the foreign detective. I'm going on to something else now, just because I'm commenting on what Mark has said. And what we've had this weekend, we've heard that Bernie is coming out with this more information on James English, talking about new witnesses coming forward. And also Bernie has said that Clarence Mitchell, who has been their long-term spokesperson, had said they were guilty. And none of these things are verifiable. Literally none of these things. And I speak as somebody who's been investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann since day dot. Now, I would happily interview Bernie if he could show me those pictures, because he's supposed to have taken pictures, right, Mark? He's supposed to have taken pictures of Kate and Jerry McCann going to this makeshift grave on a hillside. Where are the pictures? I'm telling you what, right? If I took pictures of such a thing, it would be all over the world. It would be all over the world. Why is he holding it back? Is it because they don't exist? So I want to see them. I want to see them. And Clarence Mitchell never said they were guilty. Like, never. That just didn't happen. So that's misinformation. And the idea that suddenly after 17 years, new witnesses have come forward to Bernie, again, is highly questionable. And actually what Bernie's new witnesses have done is completely rule out the Smith sighting on May the 3rd. Well, the Smith sighting is huge. And the only other people that I've known to not to want to draw attention to the Smith sighting are the McCanns. So I would hate to think that Bernie is working with the McCanns and their friends on this, but at the moment he appears to be speaking with their tongue. And that, I think, is problematic. What have you seen, Mike? What have you seen? Crazy Bunny is not impressed. Not impressed at all. Right. Corporations are rotten, says Markson. Any particular reason or just that they are? National insurance is an insurance policy. Yes, Cameron, but look how they're using it these days. Insider trading. This is interesting. We're going back to the shooting, right? Insider trading to get more money is my explanation. Interesting. Howdy all. Oh, howdy all. From Arizona. I went to Arizona. For to do some prepping. I don't know how long ago that was now. It might have been about approximately 8 years ago. And who did I go with? This wonderful guy, a prepper. Please remind me, prove you're not a bot. Can you remember this wonderful guy, quite a famous prepper, and he did a program, I think, on the Discovery Channel. Anyway, I went to Arizona to see him. You've got me started on something else now. This was a fantastic journey. We had the best time. And we had hammocks in trees. And we went off in the middle of Arizona in the wilderness. And we had to keep a campfire going all night because that kind of warded off the coyotes and the wolves and things. And he killed a snake, skinned it, and we ate it. And that was when I ate meat. And actually, it tasted like chicken. It was a fantastic journey. And I learned all manner of things, including how to shoot with a crossbow, and actually had a good, decent target. And I got a bullseye. So lovely Arizona. Good memories of Arizona. Yes, good memories. Is this a new one? Yes, Jackie, it's a new one. Pulling out the story. There's been a lot of people who have pulled out the story of Madeleine McCann and cashed in on her. And of course, there's that fake Madeleine still wandering around. As I say, she looks exactly like her mother. And that isn't Kate McCann. So do I. I agree, says Mark. Got you, Mark. Got you. Not dull at all, my dear. Who's talking about dull? Who's talking about dull? Never dull. Show us the pictures, says Soul Sound. That's right. We need evidence, Bernie. Let's see that evidence. Bernie, I will big you up to the highest. I will support you completely if you show me the evidence of what you're claiming on James English podcasts. You have my word. Honestly, if you have the evidence of what you're stating, you have my word. I know you got it wrong about Clarence Mitchell because he's never admitted that they're guilty. That's just insane. It's an insane idea. Yes, Mark, he says he has video evidence, but where is it? It's easy to say you have video evidence, make big podcasts that over 1 million people watch, but not show any evidence, right? So Bernie, public message to you, show me your evidence and mate, you get all my backing to the hilt. Yes, you will. To the hilt. Right. Moving on. See how I take these topics? Hello, short order cook. Hello. Yes. Hamish is talking about the NHS. NHS captured by them and being hollowed out from within. You talking about the privatization of the NHS via the kind of insurance companies? Yes, my dear. I'm of the opinion that we should build an alternative and leave the corporation out. Whoa, lovely Debbie Evans of UK Column wants to do that with Dr. Tek Kong. They want to build an alternative to NHS whereby people contribute. I think it was like $5 a month or something, which honestly, if I could be assured of decent alternative healthcare. Now, I wouldn't contribute to a model that is based on mainstream medicine. I wouldn't, because we've already got that. And we know the big problems with it. But a model that was prepared to look at alternative approaches to health, really important alternative approaches to health, whether that is dealing with cancer or whatever, I'd be in. You could count me in and make no mistake about that. Right, let us move on. Shalini tweeted me this morning. Hello, Shalini. It's her last week at work. So whoop, whoop for that. Said, P.S. Have you heard Royal Mail has been bought by a millionaire Czech? Well, I hadn't until Shalini brought it to my attention. But yes, the sale of Royal Mail's parent company to a Czech billionaire has been approved by the government. The post office inquiry is still ongoing. And yet we are flogging an asset to a Czech billionaire, pretty much like we did with our blood, by the way. When you give blood, a lot of our blood has been flogged to American asset companies. You do know that, right? That's what happens. And it's a 3.6 billion takeover. Leading it is Daniel Kretinsky's EP Group. It's going to be announced this morning. Okay. And the government will retain a so-called golden share. And that will require it to approve any major changes. Well, we've already seen the government's role when it comes to the post office. Of course, the post office scandal was indeed a scandal. It's still ongoing. The inquiry is still ongoing. And what happened was the post office introduced a computer system. It's a horrible story. They introduced a computer system into all these sub post offices, and it was going wrong. And not only was it going wrong, it was run by Fujitsu. Still have the contract, I believe. Not only was it going horribly wrong, but there were people at Fujitsu who were manually changing the numbers so that some of these sub postmasters and sub postmistresses were ending up with this huge amount of money that was being owed to the post office, and they didn't know where the money had gone. And people were in prison. People died. One man walked in front of a bus. And the inquiry is still ongoing. So the idea that the Royal Mail is suddenly being flogged to a Czech billionaire should sound alarm bells for all of us. It really should. And he actually, Kretinsky told the BBC earlier in the year when it was being mooted that something was taking place. He said, for as long as I am alive, right, that he would honor the universal service obligation. He believes in a one price goes anywhere universal service obligation. That's what's part of this deal. So that's interesting. And he's also agreed not to raid the pension surplus. I don't know about you. Anybody else has a problem with a billionaire and a foreign billionaire having some kind of conversation about the pension surplus of British pensioners? Anybody else uncomfortable with that? Or is it just me? And also, he's also agreed to keep the brand name and Royal Mail's headquarters and tax residency in the UK for the next 5 years. So Royal Mail, after 5 years, could find itself somewhere in goodness knows where. The Czech Republic, Budapest, anywhere, literally anywhere. But the Royal Mail is supposed to be a British institution. Of course, we all know what's happened with it, right? And so some people may say, does it matter if it's in foreign hands? Well, I think a lot of people would argue, yes, it does. What do you people think? What do you people think about the Royal Mail being sold? Hey, what do you think? Problem now. What's going on? Just listen. What's going on? Look at the flags flown on billionaires' yachts, says Fallon Fox. I take your point, mate. I absolutely take your point. Right. I want to talk about this because I think it's good. I think it's great. Disney has been forced to settle the largest wage theft case ever. What's happened, right, is that the company has now quietly agreed, but it's leaked out, to settle a wage theft class action lawsuit for $233 million, which has been brought about by Disneyland workers 5 years ago. It's taken them 5 years to get to this point. Okay. So the employees had alleged that Disney ignored the minimum wage law, which existed in Anaheim, which is where Disneyland in the US is. And the agreement revolves around the whole idea that Anaheim was set to increase minimum wage to nearly $20.50 an hour in the new year. And the representatives of the class action lawsuit, Randi, he's an attorney, he's representing the workers in this lawsuit. He said, what we believe is the largest wage and hour class settlement in California history will change lives for Disney families and their communities. It's really interesting because, excuse me, is that workers like the Disneyland workers, like kind of blue collar workers anywhere, they're treated like crap. You know it. I know it. And these big corporations will get away with whatever they can. The settlement covers more than 50,000 current and former Disney employees. Think about that. 50,000 that Disneyland were trying to screw out of their rightful money. And they thought they could because they're such a massive brand name. And you get a lot of out of work actors who work at Disneyland, you know, dressing up as Snow White and whatever. And the Seven Dwarfs, obviously not one person dressing up as the Seven Dwarfs, but you take my point. And back pay is owed to workers from January the 1st, 2019, when the wage law first took effect, until the date Disney adjusted wages at the end of the court fight last year. So Disney refused to adjust their wages of what was going on. I mean, that surely it should be illegal, right? It accounts for roughly 105 million of the total settlement. That's the back pay. Yes, what's going on? Quietly said, loudly exposed. We love that, Cavan. We love that. So what I often do is I don't stick to British, but when I look at legacy media, I look all over the world, and that includes in the US. And oftentimes you will also often get reports about what's happening in the UK in US papers that you don't find in the UK. That often happens. But I just think this is really interesting. And of course, Disney have done everything they can not to pay it. There's been an absolute back and forth legal ruling. The Judge Clayster, initially agreed with Disney in 2021. Thanks, Judge. Just keep crapping on the workers, why don't you? But the 4th District Court of Appeal reversed the ruling completely, because a tax rebate agreement was embedded within a 1996 Disney expansion deal, which had been passed by the Anaheim City Council. So the thing is, this is why sometimes you just need to keep going back at it, because eventually, you know, you can expose these people. Disney, of course, appealed the decision, but the California Supreme Court declined to hear the case, which effectively ended the legal fight. That's good news. That has to be good news. Yes, it does. Even seeing people in suits, Healing the Silence and Randi are not impressed with people in suits. I wear suits. What's wrong with people in suits? I mean, I don't always wear suits, but I do often. I like wearing suits. Isn't Disney World an independent country? Stella. Fallon Fox said Jordan Peterson said Russell has moved to parts unknown. Yeah, that's what I heard. What's this? Perhaps he is from Arizona, I believe. What's that? Cody London. And you know how recently, let's move on to another story. You know how recently people have realized there is a problem with that Arla product, Bova, right? The cow feed additive, putting cow food to appease the net zero zealots. Well, what has happened is that people have been turning to their local farmers markets in their area, which is great because we need to support local businesses. Remember, going back to Anna Redfern, we need to support local businesses. And so people have been turning to their local farmers market, and lots of people are now been turning to raw milk. Well, guess what? Bird flu has prompted another raw milk recall in America. This is not the first time this has happened. Officials claim to have found H5N1 bird flu in bulk milk tanks produced by the Modesto-based raw milk dairy. And what's happened is that all the bottles will be recalled. All of it will be destroyed. And I just think that is so curious. I always wear my birthday suit when listening to Sonia, says Mr. Mensa. Mr. Mensa, I have an image in my mind now that I probably will never be able to get rid of. But it's okay because we're talking about raw milk. And I just think that's curious that there's been a surge in raw milk and suddenly, and this is an American story, by the way, but you know what they say, and that is once it happens in America, it happens in the UK. Okay. And so since March, which was when apparently H5N1 was first detected in dairy cows, 845 herds across 16 states have been infected, including 630 in California. And the messages are going out from the State Department saying consumers are strongly urged to not consume any recalled product remaining in their refrigerators, and agricultural officials are asking retailers to pull the product immediately from their shelves. Isn't it interesting, though? Isn't it interesting that now that there's been a huge surge in raw milk because people are just abandoning any products which have Arla stamped all over it, and this is what happens suddenly, it's the big headlines are all about bird flu. Mad Duck, that's a good question. Mad Duck wants to know if these cows are heavily vaxxed. They do everything else to them, Mad Duck, probably. And Hamish is talking about suits being a vanity. No, I think suits are professional. Suits are professional. Like when I go to court, I like to wear a suit. It's good to give a good impression. Sometimes when I do talks, I did a talk on Saturday, I wore a suit. It's good to give a good impression, right? Not just about vanity, but I take your point. Jermyn Street, London, although these often come to me secondhand. Raw milk is good. Find a farmer you trust. Hamish has gone from suits to raw milk. I had raw milk once at Glastonbury, had the worst dose of Gandhi's Revenge ever. Wait, what's Gandhi's Revenge, Shug? What is that? Morning all, says Sasha. The government always milk us dry, said Marcuson. True story. Fact. That is true, Stella. They plan to give all livestock RNA injections from the new year. I did have a wee suit on Saturday, Crazy Bunny. I did. I want to show you a brilliant video. You're going to love this, people. You know, we obviously have a geoengineering spot. And we say around here, geoengineering, weather manipulation, call it what you want. Just be sure to call it, because legacy media won't. And a viewer Jenny, drew to my attention an old Prince video. And I don't know if any of you have seen it. And it's brilliant. And so I've got it here so we can all see it. Let me bring it up. And let me just give you some background on this, right? This was in 2009. Prince was being interviewed on a talk show, and he was actually talking about an ode to the comedian Dick Gregory that features on one of his songs. And Prince was quoting Dick Gregory, but now, bear in mind, this is 2009. The man was so far advanced. He was such a talent. Oh, Delhi Belly, got you. Prince was so far advanced that even in 2009, he was prepared to talk about this. Look at this. This is brilliant. I love this. Let's bring it on. I want to bring it to the stage.
Because what he said affects all of us. He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. And, you know, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time. And say, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And the next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay? And you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails. And he started to say things that hit home so hard. And I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it. Because I was so moved that I had to write the song. The other thing is the first line of the song says, I was born.
But here's the thing, Jan, I agree with you. That's why his death is suspicious. Prince was indeed a truther. He absolutely was. And the song he's talking about is Dreamer. And so in it, actually, he was just talking about the intro of the song, which was, I was born, raised on a slave plantation in the United States of the red, white and blue. Never knew that I was different till Dr. King was on a balcony. And he goes on. But it's interesting because he actually talks about chemtrails in this song, which I didn't realize before. I remember watching that clip years ago. And thank you, Jenny, for reminding me again of it. And the actual song Dreamer, in which Prince was inspired by Dick Gregory's comments. And in Dreamer, he says, praying that police sirens just pass you by that night while the helicopter circles us. This fear is getting deep. Think they're spraying chemicals over the city while we sleep. He knew. He knew. And I have to concur with Jan. Prince's death is suspicious. Just like when Michael Jackson was talking about the thieves within the music industry, okay, and then he was killed because he was killed. We were told Prince died in an elevator, right? We were told he died in an elevator as a consequence of the legal drugs in his system. I don't believe it. I don't believe that official story. I don't at all. You have something else. Why do you think that Prince was made unalived? Got you. MT70. Exactly that. Prince was a good man. He was a good man. But what's so brilliant, right, is like he's talking to us from beyond the grave, isn't it? And that's the thing, is because I believe true warriors, and I believe that Prince was one of them, true warriors, they don't die. No, they don't. My brother once said to me, a long time ago, my family were getting quite concerned about some of the things I was investigating. And they were like, you've got to be careful. You know, you are upsetting rich, powerful and connected people. And my brother turned around to me, my wonderful, wonderful big brother turned around to me. And he wasn't in any way hastening the demise of me, not at all. But what he said was, they can kill a person, but they can't kill what that person stood for. And that has lived with me since. And that was about 20 odd years ago or so when my brother said to me, and that is exactly what I apply here and now to what Prince has said. 2009. And you can even hear at the beginning, he's a bit uncertain about actually saying the word chemtrails because he was so far advanced. And I just think it's amazing. Yes, Chris, Debbie and Tech would be a good combo. Yes, you're talking about an alternative NHS. Yes. They left all their messages in the music. Yes, they did, Judith. Yes, they did. Yes, they do like an elevator story, Ian. They do. Marley as well. Absolutely. Drumstick. Yes. MJ, Prince, Whitney Houston, I think. Yes, nothing can kill the spirit. That's the reality, Kenneth. That's right, John. They don't care about us. And if you watch that video, that's the Michael Jackson video you're talking about, right? And if you watch the video, at the side of the wall, there's the all-seeing eye as well. Have you seen that in the video? Hendrix. Absolutely, people. And actually, all these people have something in common, and that is they're black musicians. A wise brother. Morrissey better be careful. Really? Morrissey? Wait, oh no, it's Billy Bragg, isn't it? That turned into the absolute woke idiot. Billy Bragg. Sinead O'Connor. Lovely Sinead. He was certainly chasing his words, but he still said it. Good on him. Cloud busting was a good video. The spirit lives on. It does indeed. It does indeed. Yes, it does. What's happened to Sasha? Why are people saying so sorry for your loss? What's happened to Sasha? Lennon started it. Indeed. Actually, it's this month, isn't it? Last week, I think, the anniversary of Lennon's death. George Michael too. That was Jacqueline. I was gutted about I was gutted about a lot of these, especially Whitney Houston, who I know that they absolutely took her down. I'm in no doubt about that whatsoever. But George Michael, wasn't he said to have died on Christmas Day, right? And then his boyfriend slept outside in the car overnight on Christmas Eve and then found him. Sean wants to know how many of these musicians would have been linked to Epstein. Interesting. Yes, George Michael is white, Mark. You're absolutely right. I have to readjust what I was just saying. You're absolutely right. Although I'm not convinced George Michael was taken out. George Michael wasn't really railing against the establishment, was he? I like George Michael, but he wasn't railing against the establishment. Exactly, the message rather than the person. That's the reality, Stuart. So my good dear wise brother was absolutely right. And that is, they can take out a person, but they can't take out what that person stands for. And I've always remembered that. It's an inspiration to me. It inspires me to continue, no matter what assaults and attacks. Apparently, Morrissey can't get published anymore. Why is that? Here we go again. Why is that? What is that? Be kind to yourself. Listen, can somebody tell me what's going on with Sasha War? What have I missed? Oh, Sasha's dad died. I am so sorry to hear that, Sasha. Very sorry to hear that. Hope you're all right. Hope you're doing okay. Fergal Sharkey is still alive, right? He's still alive and he's fighting the water companies, isn't he? He's doing some brilliant work. He absolutely is. Wake me up before you go, says Markson. And I ask, yes, Lennon's death was absolutely suspicious, Stephen. There is absolutely no way I believe the official narrative on that, not at all. And many people believe he was a FBI informant, a CIA operative, all manner of things. There was no doubt that the Beatles imagery had lots of establishment influences. Wait, Kate Bush is still alive. What's going on, people? Am I missing something? Jackie says, Whitney and the George Michael story stinks. Deep dive George Michael, please. Right. That's it. Masbro, you got it. I will do so. Take good care of yourself, Sasha. Right? Take good care of yourself. Michael Jackson was... I didn't listen to pop music, but saw Michael at the Freddie Mercury tribute. He was a great singer. He was indeed. Billy Bragg, George Monbiot, Korea, Eco Man's mate, pair of hypocrites. Hamish is not impressed. And why ever should he be by those people? And let me ask you, is this a sign of the times? I thought it was interesting yesterday that German party Alternative for Germany, also known as the AfD, has suggested Germany's membership of NATO, questions why some countries and some people are excluded. And you can guess who they're talking about, right? The AfD's joint chair, Tino Trapalo, told the German newspaper, the Daily Welt, that Europe has been forced to implement America's interests. We reject that. That's fighting talk. I like that. That's exactly what's happened in the UK. We have also been forced to implement America's interests that are not for the good of the world. And Trapalo went on to say, if NATO cannot ensure that Germany must consider to what extent this alliance is still useful for us. And he went on to talk about how Russia and Putin should be part of the organization, and the rejection and isolation of Russia is being led by America. This is really important stuff. And he went on to say, of course, they are deemed a far-right party by media, but you know what that means these days, don't you? It's oftentimes people who are actually speaking up about what's going on. They have actually been a critic of Germany's military support for Ukraine, very strong critics, argue for a swift end to the war, prompted by, all manner of things, including the continued funding of America's proxy war. And Trapalo went on to say, Russia has won this war. Reality has caught up with those who claim to want to enable Ukraine to win the war. And the conflict of Ukraine is set to be one of the major themes of the campaign for the alternative party for Germany. So it's interesting. I think it's really interesting when people put things like this on the table. NATO is not there for the good of us. We know that. It's as divisive as anything, as the Trilateral Commission, as the Bilderberg, anything. They're all the same. They're not working for us. They're working for the parasitical globalist elitists. And I'm very reluctant. I hate saying elitist. Forgive me. Shouldn't say that. They're not elitist, not at all. But they are parasites. They're parasites. What's going on in the comments, kids? Hillbilly John says Saddam Hussein works in a kebab shop in Merthyr Tydfil. Oh, I love you people. You are amazing. Yeah, Mark Devlin is fabulous. We love Mark Devlin. Gina, he comes on here. He's absolutely great on that. He is. You're talking about the pop. Yeah, he's been on and he's talked before with me about all of these various artists, including Whitney Houston. Obviously, the Whitney Houston thing, I will bang on until my dying day about what happened to Whitney and the fact that Clive Davis, who had long been head of Arista and had been like her godfather, or godfather to her child, he held his annual Grammy party. And even though Whitney was found, they left her upstairs for 11, 12 hours while the Grammy party went ahead downstairs. And I will always maintain that was ritualistic because it was weird. And then for her daughter to be ended in similar circumstances several years later. And in fact, what had happened to Whitney in the bath, in water, obviously very symbolic, which I have talked about with Mark before. But there was the scare that had happened to Bobby Christina before Whitney at the same event for Grammys, for the Grammy party and for the Grammys. And then it happened to her mother. That was not an accident. What happened to Whitney and her daughter Bobby, I believe, were not accidents. Certainly Whitney. I can't 100% say about Bobby because poor Bobby was surrounded by awful people who were not taking care of her best interest, that were deeply interested in the money that was being made. Because obviously what happens, Whitney had gone through a very, very bad time. She'd been a junkie. And I loved Whitney. Don't get me wrong. I'm not doing her down, but she'd been through a very hard, bad time, a lot of addictions. And her music career had kind of ground to a halt, really. She looked really bad. She'd lost a ton of weight. She was looking ill. And obviously what happens is when they pass, there is then this huge surge in the selling of their music, and it just generates vast royalties. And the people around her were always problematic, including her manager, who I had a problem with, who was married to Whitney's brother, and Auntie Pat, as she was known. And she appeared to be a very greedy, grasping woman who created this reality show shortly after Whitney passed, and in which poor Bobby Christina was really exploited and was clearly under the influence of various things. And there were not good people taking care of that child. And she was still a child. It's awful. John's come up with a theory. My brother is wise, Michelle. Absolutely. My big brother is wise. We're a wise family. Don't mess with us. We'll take you down. On this day in history, this will get you going. We had a painting in my childhood home, and it was of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1631. It was one of the biggest eruptions of its kind, most destructive episode in recent history. And that happened on this day in history, 1631. It was one of the deadliest of the time. Anybody, I'm just going to say anybody remember it. But I mean, that was really fascinating to me. And we just kind of like that. The imagery still sticks in my mind of like these Roman soldiers covered in lava. And I mean, it's just so powerful. But also, this is one for the kind of Mark Devlin theorists, was also on this day in history in 2009. They launched that film Avatar. Do you remember it? The Blue People. That felt very film Illuminati. It was a science fiction thriller directed by James Cameron, I think, who also directed Titanic, didn't he? It was released internationally. It went on to make $2.7 billion worldwide. But that is a film of magnificent imagery. And I did a long time ago, probably 10 years ago now, I broke down the imagery of Avatar. But yeah, that was on this day in 2009. But the Mount Vesuvius thing, they talk about in history, they say as early as August 1631, there were visible signs of Vesuvius's kind of reawakening as they see it. And but there was also, and I think this is why I wanted to talk about this briefly, is because that there was very unusual phenomena that was cited that preceded the eruption. This included various sightings, acoustic disturbances, ground deformations, gas emissions. Go back to what they had said about the drones at night trying to detect gas, right? Interesting stuff, changes in groundwater, all these things. And I do actually believe there is going to be a one world event, whether organic or manufactured, that is designed to make all the people on the earth come together. I think that's going to happen. I'm not the first to say that. That's been said for a very long time. I think that's going to happen. I'm still laughing about this. Saddam Hussein works in a kebab shop in Merthyr Tydfil. It's a little bit like DMT trip, the Avatar thing. Yeah. Who's waiting on parcel force when the animals flip? This is profound. I'm sorry. I have to agree. Where's it gone? When the animals flee, run. Yeah. Now, obviously, we've had such a disappearance, certainly in the UK, which is what I can only directly report on, but we've had a disappearance of wildlife, haven't we, over recent years? Let's get together. Something's brewing, says Steve. UFOs again, says Cara. Massive Depop agenda 2025. Harp, stay sharp to the bottom of the glass. Loving the comments this morning. Loving you guys. You're tremendous. And just a reminder of Randi and his parrot. Randi, any chance you could send us a clearer picture, love? Beats and Tape says he does. He gives me a free kebab the other night. I just have to bring that up again because the idea of a parrot watching me is hilarious to me. Just love it. Absolutely love it. Right, people, we are coming close to the end of our show, and why ever not? And so I was talking this weekend, I realized the importance of offering a future to people, right? Because we are drowning and surrounded by negativity. And I'm not talking about future faking. I've been involved with future fakers, people who are like, yeah, work for our company because this is what's going to happen in the future, right? They're future fakers. They're narcissists. They're psychopaths. Those are the people who promise the earth and deliver nothing. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about offering a future that has to be grounded in practicality and in reality, right? Not psychopathy. I'm talking about the importance of optimism, not just any optimism, mind, realistic optimism. Realistic optimism. What is optimism? Optimism, it's this hopeful, positive outlook on the future, on yourself, on the world around you. And optimism helps you see, feel, and think more positively, which is absolutely vital. But blind optimism is absolutely useless because all blind optimism does is you're like, I'm happy, I'm ignoring all the bad stuff around me. No. I'm talking about realistic optimism. People often say to me, you're really optimistic. No, I'm not. I'm actually a realist. And I refuse to be drowned out by negativity because I'm very aware that we have to raise our vibrations because the controllers around us, they can only manipulate us when our vibrations are low. So that's why I always end the show in this way, because it's like whatever news that I've had to deliver today, I want to bring it back to us and about to who we are. Sounds like a lesson from an ex-girlfriend. Jackie is a realist too. Yeah, Jack, absolutely. You have to be an optimist to be an activist and save lives, says Sasha. I hear that. So how can you make optimism work for you, right? Even if you tend to focus on the negative side of things, realistic optimism can actually work for you. It can. And the way to go about it is, first of all, decide what is realistic to expect. So, like, as one example, if you're 20 stone, right, and have no plans to lose that weight, chances are you're probably not going to be a ballerina, right? So saying, well, I hope in the future to be a ballerina, it's not going to happen. However, if you work actively to improve your body and you start studying, you may, who knows? But actually, being a ballerina is probably not the best example I could use, because that's a huge discipline that people do usually from the age of dot. Because I remember my daughter doing ballet when she was like 3. She's not a ballerina, by the way, but it starts early. But you take my point. My point is that if you hope for something in the future, you have to have a realistic expectation of it. Otherwise, you'll just end up in a soup, right? And so the way to go about it is you have to decide what you can do to make things go as well as possible. But you also must choose to focus on the positives and on your strengths as you go forward. I often talk about how I look for the silver lining in things, even negative things. There is always a silver lining somewhere. And I want to be clear here. There are really heinous things happening in this world, right? And the genocides around the world is absolutely one of those heinous things. And I'm not suggesting, let's have an optimistic approach to bombs raining down on Gazan children. No, we have to take absolute action, right? But we cannot resolve a problem by applying the same tactics that created that problem. And situations like that are surrounded by such dark negativity that we need to bring some lightness to it. And that's why I have total respect for the activists who are out there and fighting the good fight, but in a really kind of positive, hopeful way. They can do this. They can make this turnaround. They've actually, to be honest with you, in the last year, I've never seen, using Gaza as an example, I've never seen such a worldly awakening. And that is as a consequence of the activists and campaigners who simply refuse to give up. And that applies to a multitude of things. And you can't keep going like that based on negativity. You have to keep going. You keep going like that because you believe there is a chance that things can change for the best. And that's what I'm talking about. Optimistic realism or realistic optimism, whichever way you want to do it, right? A positive attitude can also help keep up a positive mood. It can help your healing quite literally. I've experienced this. Our bodies are incredible. Our bodies are designed to heal themselves largely. Right? They can do amazing things, but your body doesn't stand a chance of healing unless you know it's possible, right? Because you'll just stay in this soup again. Okay. What's this? Could be all united against something else they're talking about. Everything will work out. Yes, it will. Everything will work out. Anger is an energy, Sean, and anger can get things started. But if it's just anger, you just end up by not progressing. So that anger, you can start off with the anger of this is wrong, which is justified outrage. There are justifiably outrageous things happening in this world, and we must be outraged by them. We must be. And you can't survive on negativity. All liberals, hold my beer, says Inigo. That's funny. And yes, Sasha, I agree. A great way to raise your frequency is to listen to good music, dance and sing. Glass half full, not half empty, says Teresa. Indeed. And also when practicing optimism, because it is a practice, it's like any kind of, it's like a muscle, right? You have to work on it sometimes. If you've become so dark, like surrounded by the darknesses in our world, it can be hard to break through it, but you practice it. Remember to keep a flexible frame of mind. Expect change. And be ready to adjust to it, okay? And how do you practice it? Well, you focus on what's going well. Write down as many points as you can of things that have gone well in the past few days. Now, I know, as I say, we've come through some heavy energies, right? Full moon yesterday, Mercury retrograde went stationary yesterday because obviously the whole thing about Mercury retrograde is what happens 3 or 4 times a year. It appears that the planet is going backwards in the sky. And what it actually makes us do is reflect on past situations. But we're now in going forward mode because sometimes you have to reflect on past situations in order to be able to work out how to make improvements in the future. So focus on what's going well and make that list. If you feel in a negative mindset, make that list. It could be the smallest thing. It could be waking up this morning and being part of our live chat or on playback. Thank you for watching on playback instantly. Looked at the full moon last night, says Stephen. Can't see anything at all with the clouds. Shake my head. It's been a mad couple of weeks, Crazy Bunny. Yes, it has. Soul Sound is saying it's full moon in Taurus. I don't think it was. Wasn't it a full moon in Gemini? Because it's the cold moon. It's the cold moon. But I could be wrong. and I'm willing to be corrected, but I thought it was the full moon in Gemini because it's the cold moon. Because I'm pretty sure it was the full moon in Taurus last month, right? For 2025, writing whatever has made you smile, laugh, etc. before putting it in a jar and reading it at the end of each month or year help with staying positive. Stephen always likes to join live. Yes, Sasha, it was, wasn't it? It was Gemini, which is curious in itself because Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So it was a full moon in Gemini, then Mercury stopped going backwards and effectively goes stationary. And then in like 2 weeks' time, it goes forward again. Judith says, Lou, feed cats in that order. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Sonia. I'm a month behind. All good, says Soul Sound. Indeed. Hey, that's because we've been in Mercury retrograde, Soul Sound. You've been looking back, but now we're looking forward. We are now looking forward. MK knows it was Gemini because MK is a Geminian. Solstice. Yes. Hello, Colin. Sonia, this show makes me feel optimistic. Thank you. We love that. Right. It's 11 o'clock, people. We're ending our show. Build yourself up. Know who you are. Take care of yourself. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence, said Helen Keller. And I absolutely agree. Thank you to everybody for being here today, whether live, whether in the playback. Thank you for all your emails. Thank you for your comments on social media. Thank you for being you. And one final comment. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The realist adjusts the sails. And on that note, have a terrific week. And I will see you Friday, lovely people. Take excellent care of yourself. Of course, thank you as ever to our wonderful mods. Soul Sound, Crazy Bunny, love you much. Thank you all, people. Love you so much. Take good care of yourself. See you Friday.